says that when you want to do something and something very good is to happen, there are all kinds of obstacles. Based on the obstacles that I had in my way to come here today, something very good must happen. So let's work together. Let's have it happen.
Okay.
You know, in the Parsha there is this phenomenal machlokes that Korach organized against Moshe. It's really a kind of a shocking type of a machlokes. We had a machlokes in the previous Parsha, where the Meraglim instigated a whole rebellion, which was also something totally unexpected. It should have trusted Moshe, trusted Hashem. Nevertheless, we can understand where that Yetzer Hara comes from. On the simple level, they simply got scared. They got cold feet. They had to face a powerful enemy, and they got scared. So there's some basis for developing such a negativity. But here Korach coming out to argue with Moshe, almost irrational arguments. He also wants to be a Kohen Gadol, but there can only be one Kohen Gadol. Moshe says to him, what is this about? Or whatever all other arguments there. One of the straight statements that he says is that Kol Ho'edo Kulam Kedoshim, the entire congregation are all holy. As Rashi says, because we all together heard from Hashem, Onoich Hashem Elokeinu. Madua Tisnasu Al Gal Hashem, why are you elevating yourselves above the rest of the congregation? So as I pointed out that really this is an irrational argument. Nevertheless, there has to be some kind of an underlying meaning to it. To the point where Korach was able to garner the entire congregation. It was a huge gathering, huge machlokes. And amongst these people participating in this machlokes were great leaders and scholars, such as says Rosh Sanhedrois. I'm sure you learned the Rashi. The Rebbe points out in the Sikha that the machlokes of Korach is directly related to the machlokes in the previous parsha of the Menagrim. Because actually, you can have a question. This setup that Moshe Rabbeinu had set up, that there is Levim, Kohanim, Levim, and Israelim, and that there is a Kohen Gadol, and all that setup was already quite a while ago. Why did he wait till this point to make that rebellion and then judge? So the Rebbe explains that here he found a way a means by which he can present this argument, because one of the underlying principles of the phenomenon of the Meraglim was that the Meraglim, as we discussed, the Meraglim, they said, why do we need to go to Eretz Yisrael? Let us stay in the desert, and we can sit and learn and daven the whole day on the street. Why do we need to get involved in setting up to have to till the land and live and produce, so to speak, natural means of subsistence? They'll stay in the desert and they'll rise spiritually. And Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem's response to this was that this is not what Hashem wants. Hashem wants that we should actually engage in the world and transform the world into a godly place. Not to separate yourself from the world and just be spiritual, but bring spirituality and combine spirituality with physicality to the world. And that mitzvahs of deed, action, are really of all that important, because this is how you transform, you affect the world on a physical level. It's not just a scholarship. So then Korach came back and said, if that's the case, when it comes to mitzvahs of action, of deed, then everyone can perform these mitzvahs equally. There's absolutely no difference how a mitzvah is performed between a great man like Moshe Rabbeinu and a simple person. The tefillin that Moshe Rabbeinu put on contained exactly the same pashiyas and exactly in the same order and exactly the same format as the pashiyas that any Yid puts on for all the thousands of years. So if the deed is really the fundamental mission that Tidna to perform in the world, so then on that level there is no difference. Why you make such a big difference? And in other words, scholastically, it's obvious scholarship from learning. Good. That's a reminder that anybody doesn't understand something, please stop. From intellectually, there are differences amongst people. But since you say that the primary and most important element of our service or avodah Hashem is indeed, so then on the deed we're all equal. And then he made an emphasis. He says, "Madua tisnaseu agal Hashem." Why are you elevating yourselves? The element of elevation, as we said, on an intellectual level, there could be differences. But the setup that Moshe Rabbeinu set up, and the Rebbe set up in the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu was like a king. And we know that, in fact, this is a mitzvah in the Torah, that the Eden should have a king. In Eretz Yisrael, we had kings for many, many years, until the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And we are waiting for the coming of Mashiach, who is going to be a melech. A melech is a very important, a very important element in Jewish life, in the life of the Jewish nation and the performance of mitzvahs. What is a melech? A melech is not merely a very wise and smart person. The distinction, that which distinguishes a melech from the rest of the people, is what we call categorical. Categorical. You understand the word categorical?
Subdivision.
They're entirely in two different categories. To the extent that the Melech rules, the rule of the king, for instance, is totally different than the rule of a rabbi, of a Rav, of a scholar. If a Rav gives out a ruling, he has to explain on what basis he gives this ruling. And it's even possible to debate him, to question him, why did you pass him like this? And in certain instances, he actually is obligated to explain himself. Excuse me, and it's possible for him to make a mistake. If he makes a mistake, he has to retract his ruling. But a melech does not have to explain himself. He's in a totally different category. A melech, by law of the Torah, you may have learned, that those who learn Rambam, you just learned Hilchos Malachim in the end of the Rambam. This is Al Pi Torah. A melech is what's called an absolute ruler.
Absolute what?
Absolute ruler. Huh?
And if the king gave a wrong judgment, does he get punished afterwards by Shaman?
Yes. But he has no, that's what Shlomo HaMelech said. He asked Hashem, please guide me, because I carry a very heavy burden. And sometimes a melech has to rule on the basis of his own inclination, his own understanding. It's not even something that you can open up a Shulchan Aruch and say, okay, this is what he's to do. So this is what they ask. On what basis is there such a control, such a power over the people that you don't even have to answer for yourself? That's a melech. All the people are holy. All the people are doing mitzvahs. They're learning Torah. So we know what the consequence was of Korach. We'll discuss the error in this house, what Moshe Rabbeinu's answer was. Just want to focus in the consequence of Korach's rebellion was a most shocking and tragic end. In the case of the Meraglim, for instance, the Meraglim also died. They died in the plague. There was something natural about it. They died in the plague and they were buried. There was some trace remaining of them. Okay, they were sinners.
Korach was buried.
They were sinners. There's a sin and there's a punishment for the sin. There's a whole ado with it. And but like Korach, it was a sudden, momentary annihilation. annihilation, elimination, getting rid of the entire episode. There is no trace left. The Pasuk says, you remember in the Pasuk where it says that the earth split and they swallowed up. Then it says, "Vat yoivdu mitoich hakoh." They were lost from the Korach. Not that they were killed and they no longer can create havoc, create problems. They were just wiped away, lost. They don't, as if they never existed. There's no trace of them. This is, in a certain sense, correspondent to the Indian, that their argument was just a baseless and there was no enticement, no reason for this whole machlekes. What was Moshe Rabbeinu's response to Korach? He said they should make Torahs, and the Torahs, through the Torahs Hashem will prove whom He has chosen, and so forth. But there was an important statement in that, when he said, Boiker v'yeda Hashem es Hashem. Boiker, in the morning. And Rashi explains this whole Boiker principle. It's not just giving him a time when it's going to happen. Boiker had an implication. It had a meaning, a meaning behind it. It's something that implied. What does it mean by Boiker? People, I think. Rashi says, what was the meaning of saying Boiker? Moshe Rabbeinu was said to him that you are trying to alter, to change the demarcation line, the separation that Hashem has set up in the Jewish nation, and Israel, Levi, and Kohen Gadol, and Moshe, and all of these institutions that Hashem had set up. You're saying, he's a human being, you're a human being. He can be a Kohen, I can be a Kohen. You should know that these demarcation lines, separation lines, and these lines are as solid and as profound and as fundamental as the separation between night and day. Try to alter, to change night and day. The Eibusha had set up Vayavdei, it says in Posik, Vayavdei Elokim ben ha'oil ben ha'choshech. Hashem separated between the light and the day, and the choshech, and the night, and the darkness. And He gave the light the name day, and the darkness the name night. And this was it for all time. And since the beginning of creation, night and day followed each other in precisely the way the Rebbe had set it up, without a millionth of a second of change. It's really a phenomenal thing. The lunar month is 29 and a quarter day, approximately. It's not exactly a quarter, there's a machlokes, it's a quarter, Shin San the Gimel Halakim. This is it. This is the lunar month. You can predict when the moon is going to rise, all the every occurrence of every situation of the moon for thousands of years ahead, exactly on the basis of this setup.
What's it say, like a minute?
No, Chelek is one of the but it's an 1800 portion of an hour. And so, whatever it is, it's very precise, and that does not vary, because Rebbe should set up this demarcation and this separation. This is not an arbitrary thing. This is a real separation. Just as Hashem separated between the Jewish people and other nations. And that separation, even the other nations have recognized it 100%. They have a name for themselves. It's called Gentile. Who's a Gentile? Look in the dictionary. Anyone who is not Jewish. Yeah. What? That's a word that means not Jewish.
And as for other religions, like a word that means non-Buddhist or
No, this has nothing to do with Buddhism. Okay, let's see. So this is a godly effect. This is the Meibush's creation, and there's absolutely nothing that anyone can do. There's an additional. Rashi has a capsule pshatim. There's an additional implication. I just use the word. An additional message, additional remez in the singing of Boiker is that even though that indeed Meiser, doing mitzvahs, the deed is the important thing, and on the deed level, all Eden are equal. But the deed itself also requires the element of boiker, which means the element of light. You can do a deed without any kavanah, without any understanding, without any feeling. That's one kind of deed. But there's another kind of deed that has light, that has a kavanah, that has understanding, has feeling. And the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that the real mitzvah is a mitzvah that is imbued, that is affected, that is motivated by emotion, by Abba Paltiel, and that's the real deed. In order to have the other influence, the other elements that make the deed meaningful, the boiker, in order to bring light onto the deed, you have to have these demarcation lines. You have to have Aaron HaKohen, you have to have the separation, the Kohanim, and Aaron, and you have to have Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu, this unique person that Hashem has blessed with totally unique qualities, he is the one who can influence and bring to the people this element of light and inspiration that makes their deed bright and holy. Not everyone is capable of doing it. And this is why it is absolutely necessary that there should be this relationship. There should be a melech. The melech is the one who gives the fullest, the highest level of inspiration to the people. The people themselves can never on their own reach that. And that is necessary in order to make that their deed is a full-fledged, a bright deed, a deed with complete, wholesome. So this was Moshe's response to Korach. In principle, we had the Meraglim on the one hand, and we had Korach on the other hand. Both of them took different aspects, different things of Torah, and isolated that element of Torah, but left the other element out. The Meraglim, they said, let's go for spirituality. Korach said, let's go for a deed, for action. Neither one of these is Torah. The gift of Torah that the Rebbe gave us, this is truly a godly gift. This is not something, it's good behavior. It's rational, it makes sense. This is a godly gift. To have a perfect combination between the spiritual and the mundane and the physical, between the intellectual, emotional, and every other aspect of the person. It encompasses, takes in, and provides a meaning for every aspect of the human being. Every aspect of the human being. His intellect, his heart, his hands, his feet. You know that the Rebbe has instituted that we should go on Tahalucha, Yom Tov. I'm sure everybody went on Tahalucha. And the Rebbe said going on Tahalucha does not only mean for those people who are going to speak. Just to go is also an accomplishment. Just to go is also an accomplishment. There you walk, you act with your feet. And in this case, the feet are the ones who are doing what the Rebbe wants. This is an absolutely fantastic thing. Every element of the human being. And the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, what he says, Hayada Mechaleket Tzedakah. The hand that gives out tzedakah becomes holy at the moment. So this perfect unification between the spiritual and the physical, between the godly and the worldly, this is what was affected by Matan Torah. If you recall, we spoke about this by Shavuos time, that the whole union of Matan Torah is Elyonim, that the upper worlds can, and that which is above can descend downwards, and that which is below can rise up. That which is above can descend downwards is without limit. The highest from above descended downwards. Which is the highest? That's expressed in the words Onoichi, as we spoke then. Onoichi, Hashem himself came down to the world. And then the lower can elevate, can rise upwards. Also, there's no limit. There's absolutely no limit how much a person can purify himself and rise intellectually, emotionally, and in every which way. Like the Rambam says at the end of the Rambam, that ultimately the Mashiach will come, Eden will really understand God. and will not das boydem, the das of their creator. That is means limitless. There's no limit to how a person can rise. And this is what was, so to speak, established very painfully, but nevertheless it was established for all future generations, not the Meragin's way and not Korach's way. There has to be deed and there has to be spirituality in the deed. As we mentioned also many times, the principle that when Eden received the Torah, in order to receive the Torah, they had to say Nasa v'nishma. Remember we discussed this whole evening? It's not just Nasa that I accept what you told me. That did not merit for us a Torah. What got us a Torah? When we said Nasa v'nishma. That's I will do. Hashem said, no, I'm not giving the Torah. As I mentioned, and he even said Nasa by themselves twice. He said Nasa we will do. Nothing doing, they're not getting the Torah. I didn't need a robot to the mitzvahs. I need a living human being. It's seichel, I need this. And I say Nasa v'nishma. That is what I want. That gave him the Torah. In order that there should be this nishma, in order that there should be this brightness, this influence, this spiritual influence on the deed, there has to be a Moshe Rabbeinu. There has to be this king who is in a superior state, on a superior level, and he, I'm afraid to use the word, bestows, he grants, he influences, illuminates the Jewish souls with his spirit. As I mentioned many times, on these talks, we talk about the Pasha, we talk about the Sikha, but really primarily we want to talk about ourselves. And ourselves, it is very important to understand. There could be in every one of us a tendency, an inclination, a preference, okay? Huh?
A wanting or desire?
Yeah, sort of like a comfort. One can find a comfort zone with going one way in one extreme or the other. A nitiyah, yeah. Well, does anybody know what the word nitiyah is? I would say nitiyah. Would say nitiyah? It's a Hebrew word. Hebrew. To me? No. I said inclination, I said nitiyah, so I said I couldn't use nitiyah because just as I need to translate inclination, I have to translate nitiyah. In general, it's comfortable for a person to get involved in one or the other. You learn in Hayom Yom, you read Hayom Yom over here every day. A few days ago, I don't remember exactly when it was, where the Hayom Yom was a story that the Rebbe Maharash explained to the Rebbe Rashab. The Maharash explained to the Rashab that it is conceivable that the Yetzer Hara is called Malazokin Exil, is very smart and very wise, and he finds all kinds of what? Remember that one? And he finds all kinds of different approaches, very subtle and very creative, to guide a person in the wrong direction. And how, for instance, he will come to a person and say, sit down and learn. I want tonight you're going to sit down and learn Chassidus. Know which Chassidus? The deepest Chassidus, for 5 hours. You know what's going to happen? You're going to rise to the highest heights. Who knows? You're going to become a Martian. Martian? To Mars. Mars.
Yeah.
And this is one way to destroy and disrupt his life.
For what?
To destroy his life. There was a letter I saw in the Igros from Rebbe. You know, they have the Igros, the letters from Rebbe. A Bocher wrote to the Rebbe. A Yeshiva Bocher wrote to the Rebbe. Apparently, he was a gifted Bocher. I can't tell from the Rebbe, I don't know, from the letter, I don't even know, but it seems that, anyway, the Bocher wrote to the Rebbe that he feels restrained from the Seder of the Yeshiva. You have to learn at this hour, that at this hour, and the whole Seder, the ordinance, he's restrained. He feels that this is kind of limited. He's held back. He's limiting the expression of his talent and of his seichel and this. He can't really give it all. And therefore he would like to set up his own Seder. He describes a very rigid, a lot of learning and davening and all that. And he concludes in this letter, he says, and I hope that this will lead me base camp to the house of God. In other words, will raise me up to the highest level. That's what he wrote. The Rebbe, almost every time, the Rebbe answered on a letter, he would just simply insert something in the words of the writer. He didn't write it. It's very short. Sometimes the Rebbe wrote the whole answer. But most of the time the Rebbe would just, cross out and put in. He crossed out the word Beisken, and he wrote Lisheil Tachtis. This will lead me Beisken. So the Rebbe crossed out the word Beisken. He will read you Lisheil Tachtis. Shoyel Tachtis, into the abyss, into the ground, into the darkness. This is the Rebbe Rashab afterwards said that he then first realized that there could be what's called a frumer Yetzer Hara, a frumer, a religious Yetzer Hara. Can mislead the person very hardly. To guide oneself on the path of Torah, which is the path that includes the entire life of the human being, not one or the other. That one has to really follow guidelines and to be guided by Torah, to be guided by guides. Can't do anything. To take it even a little bit closer to ourselves, a little deeper. Every human being, every one of us has basically 3 levels. The intellect, the emotion, and the sense of the function of deed. This is generally what a human being is. the emotion is something which we get very much excited about. And we respond with the emotion, we get all excited. And we feel, that's really a wonderful thing. I feel kind, I feel good, I feel elated, I feel excited. The intellect is a kind of a cool, standoffish judge who says, this is the way, this is right, this is wrong, this is the way it should be, this is not the way it should be. And even if a person understands clearly, this is what the Torah says. This is what the Shulchan Aruch says. Not only that, this is what my own mind says. How many times, at least I have that experience, Rabbi, I understand you're perfectly right. You're perfectly right. But I can't do it. You have to understand, the mind, the intellect that the Rebbe gave us, if we want that our lives should have, our deeds should have a godly element, it has to come through the mind, through the intellect. Something that we do because I feel like it's engaging, it's warm, it's comfortable, even if it's the best and nicest thing, it's not a real Torah deed. In Torah deed is when you look up in Shulchan Aruch and it says, this is what you're supposed to do, and you do it because that's on the Shulchan Aruch. I want to give you an illustration from Halacha. I don't remember, I may have once mentioned it before. It's an interesting halacha. A person can make a fast, can declare a private fast. You know, a fast is a big thing. Certainly in the Alter says, and so that through fasting one can do tshuva. It's one of the ways of tshuva and so forth. Even we have fasts. They fast 5 times a year. Six is Yom Kippur. It's not a fast, But there are all kinds of different things which are tiny tzibur. So a person really, through his avodah, he can fast, and he also have a value of a fast. Have a value of fast. It can effectuate all kinds of forgiveness and tshuva and so forth. How does one create a fast, a private fast? It's called Tainus Yochid. How does one create a Tainus Yochid? Tainus Yochid is created by him making a decision, a declaration the day before, that tomorrow I will be fasting, by Mincha. Tomorrow I will be fasting. And then he fasts, that's a real fast. He can even say, Ameinu, there's a whole halacha. What if a person does not do the declaration? He wakes up in the morning, and he's inspired and says, today I'm going to fast. And he fasts. And he fasts perfectly the whole day, doesn't take a drop of water, nothing. And it's absolutely nothing. Huh? Because?
Out of emotion.
Our emotion. It's not right. There was not a previous decision. It's not a deed. A human deed is one that is premeditated. You make a decision to act and you act. That's a human deed. An animal that acts instinctively. We are not animals, and Torah was not given to animals. Torah was given to human beings. and the value of our deeds are due to the fact that it's premeditated. When you premeditate, then you realize, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to come closer to Hashem. I want to do Hashem's mitzvahs. That's what the mind says. The mind doesn't have an emotional inclination to do one thing or the other. The mind doesn't even have an emotional inclination to give tzedakah, which is simple. The heart can have that inclination. The mind has to premeditate. I have to give tzedakah because I'm obligated to help another eat. Then when you give tzedakah, then it's a real tzedakah. I'm not saying that tzedakah happens to be one thing that we do no matter what because the other person nevertheless benefits. But in terms, I'm giving to illustration, in terms of a deed, of a mitzvah, of doing what Hashem wants, that has to be premeditated, it has to be decided, a decision made and gone. We have to be, so to speak, obedient to our own intellect. This is a similar inyan to the machlokes of Korach and to Moshe Rabbeinu's answer. There has to be an order in human life. I have a holy heart. What's wrong? I'm just doing holy things. You can do holy things, and they have nothing to do with holiness. It has to do with your personal inclination. When do they become holy? When they go through the process. You're makabel the Torah, you learn it, you know it, and you fulfill it. Clearly, the learning has to be in a manner that we understand what we're learning. It's boiker, it's bright. We don't have to learn words, because words themselves are not going to give us any kind of illumination, any kind of insight. We have to learn and understand and know. And we have to understand, this is what's going to be guiding us throughout our lives. It's an amazing thing. The more a person learns, even if it doesn't become scholar, doesn't become a rabbi or a sheikh, whatever, he becomes a businessman. The learning is what keeps him afloat, keeps him up. Hold him in line. Every person, even a balabos who's a businessman, if he has a seder of learning every day, or on a regular basis, we can do it every day, 7 times, whatever, this learning keeps him afloat, keeps him alive. And without that, with everything embers out. Even though he continues to do good things, good deeds, but he becomes worldly. He loses contact with the Jewish perception. And he loses interest in doing a mitzvah. Mitzvah means that the Rebbe wants me to do that, and I do it. Without learning Torah, you cannot have interest in it. So Hashem should help all of us. Should understand. Hashem has blessed us with tremendously wonderful faculties. With the intellect, where we can literally understand Torah, understand godly thoughts. With emotions that have the capability of the purest and the nicest feelings. Indeed, unlimited. utilize it. We should set our lives on the course to be a healthy life that combines, doesn't go in the direction of the Meraglim, not the direction of Korach, but the direction of Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's